Bright Duty. Every student matters.
The next morning, the whole family discussed about the appearance of Sir Simon at night. Mr. Otis was upset that Sir Simon did not accept that bottle of the lubricating oil. And he also commented that if he refused to put that lubricating oil in his chain, they will have to take the chains away from the ghost. So just imagine the kind of conversation they were having. Mr. Otis did not scold the kids for throwing pillows at Sir Simon, and they also laughed at their father. Now, a few days went by. There was no incident, there was no reporting of Sir Simon's ghost, except for the blood stains that continued to reappear at the fireplace. And Washington, without fail, he continued to just wash it using the detergent. And, the color changed every morning. Now, after rigorous cleaning, the color of those stains continued to change every morning. Now, the family was very amused. They found the appearance of the ghost to be very funny and not in the least scary or frightening. They even started making bets on what the color of the stain would be the next morning. Now, Virginia was the most sensible of them all, and she was not a part of their comedy. She was not a part of the family when they were making fun of Sir Simon's ghost. Instead, she actually saw that stain every morning and she would become sad. Okay, so she actually was in tears when it turned to green. So this girl was very sensitive and sensible as well. Finally, Sir Simon decided that he was going to scare the family one more time. And his second appearance was when he decided that he was going to wear his old armor. Armor, my dear students, you must have seen in the television, in the cartoon specifically. The steel armor is a kind of a covering which was worn by the soldiers to protect their body from the swords of the enemy. So he decided to wear that armor as a costume, and accidentally he knocked himself. He got collided with the armor himself, and he tumbled down, which led to a huge crash. The Otis family thought that they were the robbers, that some thieves were trying to get into the house. They ran downstairs and they found Sir Simon, who had fallen down, and he hurt his knees and he was rubbing his knees because he was in pain. Now, before they could realize who it was, the twins started shooting the ghost with their toy gun. Mr. Otis also had a real gun with him, but he, did not shoot instantly. Rather, he ordered Sir Simon to throw his hands up in the air. Again, this made Sir Simon very angry. He just disappeared from there in anger and disappointment. But he managed to get back to his senses the moment he reached the top of the stairs. He decided that he was going to try one last time to scare the family. And how did he decide to do that? By laughing, that crazy, ghostly laugh, which according to him was very scary. So he started that, and the only response that he got from the family was that Mrs. Otis was afraid that the ghost was not feeling well, and she offered him to take some medicine for that. Sir Simon's ghost was again annoyed and furious at this, and he started wondering what was happening with him. Mrs. Otis remembered that, Sir Simon decided that he was going to take the form, he was going to change himself to a black dog in order to scare Mrs. Otis, because this trick had worked well in the past days, in the past time. However, when Mr. Otis and the twins they were approaching, Sir Simon decided that he was going to hide in his room rather than do anything now, because he was scared of the family. Now that he was alone in his room, lost in his thoughts, Sir Simon, thought about it that he did not get collided with the armor, but rather the armor had become too heavy for him to bear. When he tried to stand over it, it fell on him, and that was the reason why the crashing sound came, and he ended up hurting his knees. He was very disappointed with that, because he thought that if he is going to wear that armor, the Americans were going to be very impressed. But he failed. Apart from that, he was disrespected by the entire family, and that is why Sir Simon did not turn up for a few days. He was so disappointed that he continued to be in his bed for a lot of days. In bed, Sir Simon decided and thought of the best plan for scaring the Otis family. He collected a very huge, a big costume which had an old dagger, a knife, a sword with it. He planned that he was going to get into Washington's room, wake him up, and then stab him, in his neck 3 times while Washington was going to watch him. So he decided that he was going to enter Washington's room in some costume with a dagger in his hand, and in front of Washington, he was going to stab that dagger in his own neck, and Washington was going to watch that and going to get scared. Sir Simon thought that this was certainly a very horrified act, and he wanted to take a revenge from Washington, because he was the one who'd been cleaning that that blood stain from near the fireplace. Now, once he had done that, Washington was scared. Sir Simon now planned to scare Mr. and Mrs. Otis by touching them with his ghost hands and then whispering in their ears the secrets of the graves, talking about some horror stories. He also his desire was to sit on the boxes that were there in the rooms of the twins until they were just so scared that they would not be able to move and they would crawl out of their room. He had planned something for Virginia also, but that was not that bad and gruesome as the others, because he thought Virginia to be very gentle and she had never bothered the ghost of Sir Simon. Now, as Sir Simon was walking down the hallway so that he would begin with his plans from Washington to Mr. and Mrs. Otis, then the twins and Virginia, there was something that he saw which scared the ghost out of his wrist. He had never seen a ghost himself, but he saw one. He was so scared when he saw a ghost that he once again went into his bedroom. He hid himself under his blankets and he lost that dagger, that knife, in the process of running. So he did not have that dagger with himself now. Now, after thinking, Sir Simon thought that he was the ghost and he should not be afraid of any other ghost. He even thought that if there was another ghost in the house, then that was going to prove to be nice and good for him. Because this way he will become friends with the other ghost and they both will scare the Otis family together. But by the time he decided to execute his plan, it was morning, the sun had risen, the light was there in the hallway, and obviously, because of so much brightness, Sir Simon did not come out of his room because he thought that, that would not give such an impact in scaring the other people. And he saw in the morning that the ghost that Sir Simon thought he had seen last night and that he was scared of was basically a kind of a scarecrow. Scarecrow, my dear students, I hope we all know what is a scarecrow. This is basically used by the farmers in the fields. They put up something scary in the middle of the field so that the crows will not spoil their crops. So that was a kind of a scarecrow that was made by the Otis family. And they even had put a tag on that scarecrow notifying that this was an Otis ghost. This was, true and an original ghostly act. And they said that everything else was fake and this was only original. Sir Simon obviously was very upset with what had just happened, and he decided that he was going to take revenge of it. He was going to take a thorough revenge for what had happened to him. And Sir Simon had read in the books that, how the Americans would take an oath. So he decided that he was going to take an oath and he was going to fulfill. He decided that that scarecrow was going to be thrown out by him at once today. And he again, rather than doing anything, so he decided that for the time being, he's going to go back to his coffin and rest. Because whatever was to be done could be done at night. During the daytime, he could not do anything.